What's up, guys? Miles here with Sisendo Sports. In this video, I'm going to be talking specifically on Carmelo Anthony's interview with Stephen A. Smith on First Take on ESPN. Now, just a quick side note, this video you're just going to be seeing the Sisendo Sports title page as you see in other pieces of my videos. In the next couple of months, I definitely plan to get a webcam, so you'll be looking at me. But that's just a quick side note, so I'm going to jump right in. So, if you haven't watched the interview yet, you should definitely go watch it. If you don't have like an ESPN membership or cable, I don't know if they're going to be replaying it, probably not, but you can definitely go watch it on their YouTube channel. Just type in Carmelo Anthony. It's going to be like the first 5 videos. They're all separated into like 5 to 7 minute segments. So you should definitely go check it out. And I'm just going to break it down pretty much part by part of the order they went. And before I start really diving into it, I'm going to go ahead and say a lot of people have called me out on not being a big fan of the Rockets. And honestly, they are right. Now, it's not like I hate the Rockets and Houston, just the organization itself. There are some parts of it I liked or still like. Eric Gordon, PJ Tucker, I think Clint Capella can develop to a great player. And I did like CP3, even though he's not there anymore. And I am a pretty big fan of Russell Westbrook. But now on the flip side of that, I'm not a big fan of Mike D'Antoni. As you know, Carmelo is my favorite player. I do not like Mike D'Antoni. I did not like having him in New York. Daryl Morey, I got a lot to say about him later. And then James Harden, definitely not the biggest fan of him. But I'm going to go ahead and dive right in. So just to let you know, I don't hate Houston just to hate Houston. It's just specific pieces in Houston I don't like. So going ahead and get started. The first thing they really hit on was Carmelo ending his time in Houston and how that came down. So he said, and I remember it because I'd watched every single Houston game this year or last year that he had played in. And I remember just a few games before he got released or before the news came out, he dropped 28 points off 75% shooting at Brooklyn and ended up winning the game. And that was a game that James Harden wasn't playing. Him and CP3 dominated it. And it was like one of the funnest games I had seen all year just because I was watching two players always wanted to play together, come together, and just have an amazing game. But so I was really surprised when I started hearing the news. And if you remember, it didn't come out like directly. It wasn't just like breaking news. Carmelo Anthony will no longer play with the Houston Rockets. It was like Carmelo Anthony. First, I don't know if I think they reported it as like a sickness, and then they were like team issues. They were very undercover about it. It didn't just come straight out. Then like after a few days, it was like Carmelo Anthony will not play another game with the Houston Rockets. I was like, what in the world? So what he said was they had a game in San Antonio the next day. They were in the hotel, and he had a meet. He wanted to meet with Daryl Morey. But then Daryl Morey also had notified him that he wanted to meet with him. So Melo said that, hey, I just wanted to talk to him about what I could do to help the team be more productive and if there's anything I need to change up and if I'm doing my job okay. And that's what he thought the meeting was going to be about. You know, he was he wanted to meet before he even knew Morey wanted to meet. And then Daryl Morey came into his room and pretty much said, hey, we don't need your services anymore, okay? So just imagine this. You're 10 games into the year. You just had a chance to go anywhere in the league. And really, Melo, the slander hadn't really started that much then. He did take the fall in OKC. They're like, they're going to be so much better without him. But the Melo slander still wasn't out of hand back then. But after that, that's when it really started to just go crazy. But he said, we don't need your service anymore. And Melo was like, he laughed. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, you're going to have to find somewhere, or you're going to have to find something to do. And this is 10 games into the season, so everybody had just filled up their roster. There's really nothing you can do. A lot of players couldn't even be traded yet. Like Melo, he couldn't be traded to December 15th. So just at that point right then, even if he had somewhere to go, he had to wait over a month to get there because this happened on November the 10th. So my thoughts on that are that's just really messed up, and I'm not going to say certain words because I try to keep this pretty PG, but that is really messed up. This is a professional that came. He said he didn't miss a practice. He had been very respectful to everybody in the organization, had been communicating with the coaches, communicating with the players. He accepted his role to come off the bench. He had never come off a bench in his he had never come off the bench in an NBA game in his life until he played with Houston. So that was just a major change for him doing that. And he did it willingly. And I just don't feel that I know that's not the right way to handle a situation like this. They should have just waited longer and just said he was hurt or something. Honestly, just lie about it. If you wanted to get rid of him, don't give out this narrative that we're better without him. And again, they had a lot of people hurt already. So he said that there was only a 9-man rotation going in, and he's not good enough to make that. He said it's more to basketball, it's politics then. And I agree with him. It is more than basketball then. And you say, well, he's not talking about productivity, but I actually have some stats. This is from 4 of his last 7 games. One of them, he scored 28. That was in Brooklyn off 75% shooting. One of them, he scored 24, shooting 8 for 18. One of them, he scored 22, shooting 9 for 17. One of them, he scored 17, shooting 8 for 14. Those are 4 of his last 7 games coming off the bench, people. So 28, 24, 22, and 17. Those were 4 of his last 7 games. And that's just ridiculous, honestly. I don't know what else you can say about that. That is definitely more than basketball. If you would rather go into a game with a 9-man rotation than have that person on your team. So I do not like Daryl Morey. I've made that clear a lot of times. And as long as he's in Houston, as long as Mike D'Antoni's in Houston, I'm not going to root for them. I don't care if Russell Westbrook's there. But now moving on to the next thing Melo talked about was Oklahoma City. And I've already hit on this a lot. He said he really wanted it to work out there. And Stephen A. asked him about how hard it was for him to take a lesser role. And he pretty much said, hey, if they wanted me to take a lesser role, if they thought it was best for me to come off the bench, they should have came and told me, hey, you should come off the bench. But he said Billy Donovan approached him and talked to him, and he told him what his role needed to be. He didn't tell him he needed to come off the bench. He said nobody in the front office came and informed him that they wanted him to come off the bench. And as a superstar player just a few years ago, and still one of the biggest names in the NBA, he's just not going to walk in to practice one day and be like, hey guys, I think I should come off the bench. You know, that's not his role. His job is to listen to what they tell him. And if nobody's telling him to come off the bench, and then he's like, who, me? Well, when he's asked if he's going to come off the bench, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Of course he's going to say, who, me? Because nobody's told him about that. And again, he didn't expect that role coming to Oklahoma City. And he did take a lesser role in OKC, being the third scoring option and being a catch-and-shoot player when he's more of a rhythm scorer. So not much to hit on there. And then he talked about not joining Miami and not going to Chicago. He said he was about to join Chicago. He actually met with New York that year, and he said he had heard that a handful of players that were in Chicago weren't going to be in Chicago anymore. And he just didn't think it was the best situation for him. He came back to New York, and he said they promised him things, and they never really fulfilled it. But he didn't go into details because he's still trying to grab an NBA job. He doesn't want to throw anybody under the bus while he's unemployed right now. So you can't blame him. He's just, again, being a great professional like he's been his whole career. Now, moving on from that, Stephen A. had asked him about Miami, and he was like, well, things could have worked out there, but at that time I was young and naive, and I wanted to secure the money. And that doesn't really sound naive to me. He wanted the money. He didn't understand that, you know, if I take a 3-year deal, then after that, I can go anywhere, or I can get an even bigger deal. And at that point, in a young player's career, I don't blame them taking a 5-year deal. Now, back then, 5 years was $80 million. So if Melo was like in his prime right now, he would get like a 5-year, $250 million deal, which is just ridiculous to me because that was like 10 years ago, and it's a $200 million difference, like what Damian Lillard and Russell Westbrook, John Wall is making. But that's off topic, but that's just kind of mind-blowing to me. But he said joining Miami was a possibility, but he wanted to stay in New York. You know, he has family there. He grew up there. He wanted to be the guy in New York. Now, that's just, I feel like there's a lot of honor to that. And Stephen A. kind of wanted to make him sound bad for not wanting to join Miami. But the problem with that narrative is a lot of people will use that narrative against Melo. All he cared about was the money. He just wanted to be the star player. But they'll also use the same thing against other players for joining players. So even Kevin Durant, now what he did was definitely not compared to anybody else in the league, but he joined to get a ring, but then he gets blasted for it. Carmelo stays in one place and he gets blasted for it. Oh, he's just all about the money. He doesn't care about winning. And I don't agree with that narrative at all. Damian Lillard says, hey, I want to stay here. I want to win here. I like it here. He's praised about it. But I don't know. Maybe in 10 years, people are going to be throwing him under the bus. Oh, he didn't want to win a championship. He's scared about the money. But, I mean, staying in a place you want to stay in. Melo wanted to be in New York, you know. So I don't know why so many people give him hate about it. And then I see Knicks fans hating on him. I'm like, he made you relevant. He honestly made you relevant. He was like, oh, no, he didn't. He was a ball hawk. And it's just people forgetting his greatness and what he did in the past. And that's pretty much what this past year has been for Carmelo Anthony. And it's just really messed up to see a player go out like this. So now moving on to the last topic they talked about. It was who he had talked to and about retirement, how many years left, and his farewell tour. Now, go ahead and get clear. He said, I never said anything about a farewell tour. I wish my trainer hadn't said that. I don't want a farewell tour yet. He said he still believes he could play 2 to 3 more years in the league. So he's not ready to hang it up just yet. He loves the sport too much. And moving on to about retiring, he said if he has played his last NBA game, he would be at peace. He's come to accept it, and he said at least he wouldn't be in limbo, which I think he's just being really vulnerable and really open, and he's just letting people know what he's actually thinking. I think that's really powerful for a player that's gone through so much in the past few months to really come out and just be so open on the biggest stage in really sports when it comes to the ESPN and First Take and Stephen A. Smith. So then he said if he had talked to teams and how it'd be like joining up with LeBron, he said, actually, yeah, we have reached out to the Lakers. And he said, and we've reached out to Clippers. We have some dialogue with a few teams. So that is pretty motivating to Carmelo Anthony fans. That gives us hope. And I really hope he signs before the season starts. But then the last thing I want to hit on in the interview was him talking about LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and CP3, and about their relationships. And honestly, this is a lot of what I've been thinking. He's like, so you have LeBron James here. He has 11 roster spots to fill up, and he literally chose 11 or 10 people already, and none of them were you. And he was like, so how's that feel? And he's like, well, it's a business. But then again, just last March, LeBron said, I would love to play with Carmelo Anthony here. And I just don't understand, is LeBron not say anything, or they're going to listen to LeBron. If LeBron says, give me Carmelo Anthony, they're getting Carmelo Anthony. There's no doubt about that. So I don't really understand that. He said, Dwayne Wade, highly respected around the league, has a lot of connections. You're one of his closest friends. He's like, why did Miami never happen? Why didn't that happen? And that's a valid question. Why didn't it happen? Miami had always been one of the teams thrown around with Carmelo, even when he was leaving New York, and even after New York when he got traded to Atlanta and was bought out. Miami was a big name with Dwayne Wade there. Why did that never happen? He was like, well, again, it's a business. He's like, it's CP3. He's the head of the Players Association, and all this is happening to you. And what's, you're still not on the team. And again, I agree with that. What's happening? These are your boys, Carmelo. And I understand that it's more than just, hey, that's my friend. I can pick him up. But those are pretty powerful players. I mean, over the past decade, those are like 3 of the most influential players in the league. Definitely 3 of the top 5 in the past decade. So it is kind of weird. And it is a great question to ask. And Melo really couldn't say anything because he honestly didn't look like he knew. And again, he mentioned, it's a business. It's just not about who you know and who you're friends with. I have a lot of friends. But that is a valid question to ask. And if I'm Carmelo and me and LeBron have wanted to play together since we were 18, 19, and I'm getting scapegoated by the whole league, or I'm getting scapegoated by the Houston Rockets and blackballed by the whole league, and he has 11 roster spots and I don't get one of them? I mean, honestly, we're not friends anymore. I mean, you're LeBron James. You can get me on the team. And, of course, Melo would be willing to play there. So that is a very valid question to ask. And honestly, if I was Melo, I'd be quite pissed off about it. And I know it's more than a business. And I know it's more than basketball. It's a business. But still, that's your boy. You've wanted to play together forever. So that's a very valid question to ask. So there's a lot of unknowns in Carmelo Anthony's future. Now, of course, he's my favorite player. I hope he comes back. I really do. I'm going to be pretty sad if he ends up finishing his last game as a Houston Rocket where he shot 1 for 11 against OKC and then got let go in a hotel room by Daryl Morey. That would be pretty heartbreaking to end that career. But again, either you die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to be coming out with a lot more content coming up. I'm going back to school in 2 weeks. And you would think, oh, you're going to be super busy in school. Actually, no, I'm more busy when I'm at home and I work 50-hour weeks and don't have much time. I go to sleep early. So, again, thanks for watching. Have a great day, and let me know what you think in the comments about Melo's future.